have noticed some of the Christmas decorations going on there in the background, kind of neon pink and purple with a Christmas tree in the corner and a Happy Christmas written across the front of the tree. Now this is a fairly typical scene while we were over there. This is me preaching with a translator. Everywhere in Nepal I preached with a translator, and almost everywhere in India I preached without translation. That's kind of weird. Okay, and when I was done preaching, I gave an invitation that anybody who hasn't accepted Christ to come forward and, and I was really shocked because as I gave the invitation, it was like the stage was rushed by all these people. Now, there was no hemming and hawing, waiting to see, is anybody else going to go forward? Should I go forward? Should I go forward? Does anybody look? There was none of that. It was like, as soon as the invitation was given, it was like people started to run at the stage, and I was like, what did he say? Like, I wasn't sure. Did he say, I've got money in my pocket, and the first one that can arrive gets it? I didn't know what it was, and I really thought that what was happening was a revival, and I was really like, God, this is incredible. And then the translator explained to me, all these people have accepted Christ already, but they want prayer for healing. I went on to learn later that 99% of the people in Nepal and India do not have any form of health insurance. They have no health insurance whatsoever except for the 1% richest of the population. And so everybody there wants prayer. Everybody wants prayer for healing because they can't afford anything else. They can't afford to go to the doctors. Some of the people that you'll get to see, some of the people that are here, earn $2 to $3 a month. They want $2 to $3 a month. And now you figure what you need to spend on food and anything else, living expenses, rent, anything like that, it's all gone. So there's nothing left for health care. So everybody wanted prayer for healing, and I got the chance to do a lot of praying for people, laying on of hands. You can see here praying for this woman, praying for this woman. Even got the chance to pray for some children. This little boy, the mother told me he has lost his appetite and isn't eating and refuses to eat, and she asked if I would pray for him. And so I held him. He was not very happy with me holding him because he was sound asleep on the straw mat that you can see there on the floor, very typical straw mat that was used for worship. And I woke him up, I prayed for him, and incidentally, I ran into the mother 2 days later, and she said he had gotten back his appetite and he was eating very well again, and thanked me for the prayer, and that was a very cool praise report, because you don't get to too often hear the praise report. You're there, you pray, you're gone, you never see him again. The kids really enjoyed their time with me. At first they were a little leery, but then after they saw that I was very tall and they could play a high five game with me, they really enjoyed that. They wanted to see who could get the highest. I reached all the way up, but nobody could get there, so I had to bring it down just a little bit. You can see the biggest boy there. He's getting the gold medal for high fives. I convinced, this is during the fellowship hour, the Pastor Paula and Dr. Peter, as soon as we were done preaching, we left, we walked out, and they walked me over to the road. We were going to catch the bus, and I was like, where are we going? And they said, we'll go back to the hotel. I said, and do what? They said, sit there. And I was like, well, why don't we go back here and fellowship with those people? They're hanging around, they're your church. Why don't you go back and minister to them? And they talked about it in Hindu. I don't know what they were discussing or why there was any issue going on here. And they finally decided, okay, I guess we can do that. And so we all went back, and we were hanging out here. And they got out some tea. They call it chai. And they offered us all chai. And now remember, this is my first day there, out and about. So they give me this glass of chai, and I'm trying in my head, should I take it? Should I take it? Should I take it? Should I take it? I need to be healthy for other places. Should I drink this or not? And all this has gone through my head, and I decide I'm going to take it, and I'm looking at the glass, and I see the chai in the bottom, and at the top I see water droplets all around. So I know that they've washed it. My question is, how have they washed it, and where have they washed it? So I'm trying to figure this out. I'm asking the pastor, how do they wash these things? Where do they wash them? He's like, I don't know. He wasn't really very concerned, so I was like, okay, God, here we go. My stomach's in your hands. I'm trusting you. I'm doing this because, fellowship and eating together I think is important. And, to turn down all their food I think would be, it'd be kind of insulting. And so I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to trust you with the results. So I drank. We were sitting around talking. And then I took my glass over, and the women took it over into the gutter. where the water was running along the side. Same water that the cows were drinking out of about a quarter mile up the road, and another eighth of a mile the women were doing their laundry. And they rinsed it out and washed it and smiled at me the whole time. And I'm like, oh God, my stomach is truly in your hands now. Pray for a miracle. And you know, I did not get sick once while I was over there. Not once. And that's not the only time that I ate or drank in a questionable situation. I did not get sick once, I should say, until I landed in O'Hare. And I think it was probably the airplane food. But I'm not sure about that. But it was amazing. For 3 weeks, stomach was fine, food was delicious, and everything was just fine. The kids, I really got to enjoy the children are over there. This is a beggar. In Nepal and India, there are several kinds of beggars. Some of them overlap with our types of beggars. There is the drug addict, strung out on crack or whatever, all sorts of illegal drugs that, can't pull their lives together. They just beg on the side of the road to get money for more drugs. There is the person who has some sort of a mental disability, who is not able to function on a social level. There's a person in India now, I don't know that we have too many people in America that have a physical handicap that are stuck on the street begging, because I think that a lot of times we have a situation that can help allow them to make money. But they have physical handicaps, they have mothers with children, many of whom I'm told that don't need to be begging, but they're using their children as a tool to get money. And then there are people who kidnap children and force the children to be beggars for them. And then there's this kind of beggar, which is a holy man beggar. So he is seen as a holy man. If you give him some money, he will give you a blessing. So this is just one of the kinds of beggars that are over there. You'll notice that he's wearing a necklace. It's kind of a brown thing. You'll notice back here, I've got several things on display. When you leave today, take some time and look at them. I'll talk about what the different things are over the next week or so, next week and today. But the brown necklace that he's wearing, I have one of those back there. It's made of some sort of a seed. I think it's a Bodhi seed, but I'm not sure. But they were worn by these holy men. I did find a volleyball game going on, so I jumped on the court. And after about 10 minutes, they put the ball down. They said, okay, now everybody put in 50 rupees. Time to lay out some money. So we placed a bet, and I lost. So it was an interesting game. But 50 rupees ends up being about 65, 70 cents. So it wasn't too bad. Dr. Peter and Pastor Paul are eating one of the many meals that we had. The food was very diverse and delicious all over. After the volleyball game, we jumped on the boat and went out to the island here. This is the site for which Bochara is known for. It's a lake, and on the island is this temple, which was really not very much to see, but we went out to see it because it was, it's the thing of their town, so we went to see it. That's Pastor Paulin again. Sunday morning, we got up early to go to a village where Pastor Paulin, by the way, Pastor Paulin has started the church that we were at, and he also started the church that we are getting ready to visit now. But I saw this woman with her herbs, spices, and her grains out, and I just thought, those are beautiful. The colors in here, it's a little bit washed out here, but the colors of those are very vibrant and just gorgeous, so I couldn't help but take a picture. As I said, we went out to this church. It's in the rural area, village. That's pretty far out there. We passed some interesting sights along the way. And we came to this church here. The man to my right is Pastor Bim. And I kept calling him Pastor Bill. The whole time I was there, I called him Pastor Bill. And when we were getting ready to leave, or just after we had left, I said, oh, by the way, his name's not Bill. It's Bim. B-I-M. And I felt like a heel the whole way home because I called him Bill all day long. And nobody corrected me. But this woman helped us set up the mats for worship. That's their version of pews. And this is the outside of the church. Pastor Bim invited us over to his house for some tea and refreshments before the service began. So we walked out between the rice paddies here. They've got a little vegetable garden going on during the drier season. And his son was a little leery of me at first, so he kind of hung out there until I showed him that I could capture his image on a digital camera. Then he really liked that, so he came around. We did have some creepy crawlers hanging out over our heads. That one was over my head, and it was probably about that big. and maybe a little nervous, but I figured if they were used to him, I could be used to him. They worship with drum sets and guitars. It's interesting, if they're a poor church, they start out with just a drum. Drum is the first thing they buy, because it's the cheapest thing, it's the easiest thing. They can make a drum. They can stretch the leather over the edges, and they can make a drum. That's the first thing that they get. If they get a little bit foundation, they get a congregation, they get a little bit of money, then they'll buy a guitar. That'll be the next thing that they buy, so they'll have drum and guitar, or drums and guitar. And then finally, if they get to be really well off and they're doing pretty well as a church, then they'll go ahead and get a keyboard. And the keyboard is the epitome of their worship. I know that in our country, a lot of churches think that the keyboard is where you start and they move to the drum set. And some, it's just interesting. It's kind of flip-flopped, kind of backwards. But it's interesting that they keep working for this, and some churches work for that. It's just interesting where they go. But worship here was pretty much similar to worship at the other place. Women sat on one side, men sat on the other side. And again, preach with translation. This time Pastor Paul translated for me. And once again, the stage was rushed with people who wanted prayer requests, both men and women, wanted healing, and so we prayed for that. And then back to Pastor Bim's house for lunch. Lunch was cooked in this little side room. You can see a little fire there on the left-hand corner of the screen. Everything was cooked there, and everything was washed again in questionable water, so I was a little nervous, but it was fine. We said goodbye to Pastor Bim and his family. And we walked about 1.5 or 2 miles until we got back to the bus, where the bus picked us up and took us back to town. Gorgeous day, by the way, gorgeous weather. Interesting vehicles. Saw all sorts of interesting vehicles along the way. This is some sort of almost like a miniature dump truck with the engine sticking out in front, and I just thought it was really interesting, so I just took a picture of it. Saw several of those. I kept trying to get a picture, but of course, you see them when you're driving most of the time. And so you take a picture and it's all blurry, and you got the crossbar of the window right in the middle of the picture. So this one I saw while we were walking along, and he is moving, but I got him just when he was shifting gears, so I think he was going forward and he stopped to go back. I did catch the sounds of the major market in Bochara, and I'm going to play this video now for you to hear what it sounds like in town as the people are hanging around and catching buses and making sales and things. Here's the sights and the sounds of the main market in Bochara. May have noticed that man banging on the side of the van, like that. They had a very interesting, it was a universal code of communication between people he's a ticket collector for the bus, and he knocks on the van. Anybody who's a ticket collector, when you get on the bus, there's usually somebody there who's collecting tickets and somebody who's driving. And the ticket collector, if he sees somebody alongside the road who signals they want to ride, he'll slap the side of the bus and the bus will stop. And then as soon as they're safely on, he'll wrap the side of the bus in quick succession, like that, and then the bus will start again. That was a universal signal. They also had whistle signals, but I couldn't figure out the code for them because they were all different. But that was, wherever I went, if there was somebody helping a stranger back up their car, they'd tap on the side of the bus, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming, stop. And it was an interesting code language. So we stopped over, I said we did a lot of encouragement. We stopped over at Pastor Paulin's house, which is down this hill, and there, that white building, part of that building is his house. And we hung out, we talked. His wife cooked us dinner, and it was interesting. The women never ate with the men, almost never ate with the men. It was always, the women would cook, they would feed the men, and the women would eat. And it was that way. I felt pretty uncomfortable with that, but it was their culture, and I wasn't about to change the entire nation. So I just kind of swallowed my uncomfortableness and went with it. This man here is an interesting man. He works with Pastor Paulin's wife, and he led a mission trip with YWAM, which is Youth with a Mission, to Western Nepal. And he took a group of kids with him to Western Nepal, like teenagers, young college students, that sort of age range. And he and his group were evangelizing